This is, who's going to run this meeting? Is this going to be, it's not going to be me.
I can, I guess.
I'll run it, and we'll get it over real quick.
This is a workshop to discuss the proposed solid waste hauler licensing ordinance. In addition, some other issues concerning bear proofing of garbage cans and load covering have been asked to be included since the general topic is solid waste. Back in July, the board originally had a workshop on discussing solid waste licensing. And at that time, a decision was made to have a second workshop to give the haulers time to review the ordinance and provide their input on it. And that's really the purpose of tonight's ordinance, is to hear from your haulers and decide then what this board wants to do, if anything, with regard to licensing of your existing solid waste haulers.
I don't know if you guys have read this. Go ahead.
Let her finish.
And I was going to say, I would note that Commissioner Arts has expressed a desire to participate in this workshop, and she was not able to be here because she had her Florida Association of Counties final certification training was today, and she got a scholarship to attend, so she needed to finish that up.
That's up to the board. If y'all want to table it and we can come back to it another day.
No. I don't. I've read it, and I think we need to just dispose of it right now. I can't tell that it does anything for the haulers. To me, this is like, all right, we're going to start regulating restaurants, and if you don't get good service, you come tell me, the county, and we'll go down to that restaurant and we'll fine them. This would be beautiful if you had a single service provider like Alan wants. This is exactly what you need for that. But we don't have that. We have 6 haulers. If you're not happy with their service, go get somebody else. We don't need this. Period.
Okay. That's your opinion, Mr. Brock?
Well, as far as the bear-proof cans go, I understand the logic behind it. I don't think that is a burden that if we're going to, I'm not willing to put it out there as a requirement right now. There are companies that provide bear-proof cans if you request them, and that are providing service in Wakulla County. Feel free, I encourage you, if you're interested, to reach out. Mr. Ralph Thomas also has several clever personal adaptations he is glad to share with anybody who is curious on how to turn a regular trash can into a bear-proof trash can for pennies on the dollar. I'm sure he'd be glad to share with you also. As far as the other aspect of the second half, which I apologize, I don't remember the initial reason we wanted to bring back the ordinance to discuss the licensing. Are we discussing fees?
Well, let me say, the ordinance as it's drafted right now is not intended to be something that you would go forward with. What we did was throw everything you could throw in there so that the board could say, well, we want to scale back on levels of service. We want to enforce through fines, not through license revocation, or vice versa. I mean, we put all the language out there so that everything was there with the intent that it would have to be scaled back. For example, you probably wouldn't want to have sections 4 and then also section 9, I think it is, and then section 9 as well. Those sort of accomplish the same purpose, and that's your stick to enforce it. You would probably, if the board decided they wanted to go forward, you would give us direction that we want one or the other, or a hybrid.
And so currently we don't have a licensing procedure, and this is helping us come up with a licensing procedure for our garbage haulers.
That's correct, you don't. And what you also don't have, that you are probably going to need to have, depending on where you go with your transfer station, is a flow control. So at a minimum, I'm probably going to recommend bringing back some sort of flow control. And all that is saying, the waste you pick up here, you have to take to our transfer station.
I was pretty sure we had a flow control ordinance.
I think it maybe have come off the books when there was a lot of United States Supreme Court litigation on the issue, and that has since been settled within the past couple of years.
I remember that coming up in the late 90s.
I'm okay tabling this because I have not reviewed, I'll be honest, just out front, the ordinance enough to figure out what's good and bad about it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I want staff, I want Cleve and his gang to tell us what we need out of here. I don't know. I don't deal with this every day. You do. And if you say we need some aspects of this, then I think we ought to entertain that. But if we don't need it, I'm with Randy, throw it in the trash.
No, you definitely need some aspects of this. I mean, we just brought up flow control ordinance. I have no idea who the commercial haulers are. If they got an account, we know who they are. But if somebody comes, pays their $25 to the, I guess, the tax collectors, whatever that fee is, they're in the solid waste business. Then they go out of business. And guess who gets the call? The county gets the call. You know, this person was picking my trash up and they're gone. Bags lay, you know, the trash coming out of the back of the trucks. We handle, you know, I think the number was about 12 tons on an average of illegal or waste that we pick up on the side of the roads that's coming out of trucks that aren't covering the loads.
Don't we have existing regulations, though, that can cover that?
No way to enforce it.
We have litter ordinances, we
don't have a fine associated with it.
We don't. It's
don't have a fine associated with littering, dropping bags on the highway?
Well,
If you catch them.
How is them having a license going to catch who dropped that bag?
I don't know that, Randy. I just, we have a covered load ordinance that was put in effect when you were there.
Right.
We just never have been able to enforce it. I don't want to pay somebody to sit out there at the scales and write tickets either. But somehow we got to get control of it. And I don't want to over-regulate. I'm against government regulation. But at the same time, I just want y'all to tell us the simple way to make this. What parts of this do we need to have to make it work?
We could. I think I met with at least 3 people, 3 haulers, and I think Nanette's given out several copies of it to other haulers and asked them for their feedback. But I'm like you guys. I don't want to be the garbage Nazi of the county either.
Well, and Cleve, can you give us your top 5 items that are important to you? Maybe not tonight, but just without 19 sheets of regulations, the top 5 things that you figure that we need to do. Now, if it means these gentlemen covering their trucks, they need to cover their trucks. They know that. And I wouldn't let them in a dump if they don't have their trucks covered. You know, that's...
That is actually minor.
I know.
You need to look at your receivables. And we require a $500 deposit to have a commercial account. These people dump well in excess of that a week. And part of this ordinance is to come up with some way that we can, and the way we bill in this county, the clerk's already left. The callers, and I'm going to come back to you in the future with the septic tank regulations. They're 60 days before they're late. In the 60 days, they're $12, $15, $18, $20,000 behind to you already. So we carry lots of balance on the books right now.
I agree with Cleve 100%. That's always been a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't think we need to also be regulating what hours of the day you can pick trash up.
Randy, I just said he needs to that. We don't need to be in the business of trying to figure out what goes in this. I don't know. I don't do it. He does, and his people do, and they need to tell us. Let's let them take this back and come back and tell us what you really need out of this. It'll make it as simple as we can. It's not as, don't be burdensome on the folks that's got to run these businesses, but at the same time we've got to make it work for us.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at. I agree that there's lots we don't need in here, but you do need to know. I mean, the tax collector should not put somebody in the solid waste business. The solid waste department should put somebody in the solid waste business.
I agree.
And right now, the most common question I get from commissioners right now is how many customers do these companies have? I don't have a clue. And there's no obligation for them to tell me. I don't want them to report their revenues to me, but I do think that if we take a hard look at people where they're using a solid waste facility, we ought to be able to say, well, we've got 10 companies, but we only got half the county using the service. You can start looking at those numbers and say, well, we got a big problem. People aren't using the service. And so there is some, I think this is probably on the extreme side, but you do need some regulations from the solid waste side.
just bring us your top 5 items. Don't write it up in 16 pages. Bring us, and then let us, if top 5 items are not going to be legal items. They're just items that we can take one by, instead of a shotgun like probably this is. Bring us a problem and let us solve it. Bring us another problem, we'll solve that.
Well, it's going to be one ordinance.
Sorry?
It'd probably be best to write one ordinance. And
Well, okay, yeah. But bring your top 5 items that you've got. And then if we have 5 more later, we'll go to those.
so
One more thing, and I'll quit and try to interrupt you. The biggest thing I wanted to say when I got up here tonight, unless we've got to make a decision on how we're going to go with our solid waste program. If it's going to be the assessment, then we need some more controls. If it's going to be one provider, that's different. But really, this is actually a little premature until to the board decide what directions you want to go with your program.
Yeah, I agree. Well, then we need to wait on this. We need to set this aside until we do the other. We don't even need to be talking about this until we do whatever we do. Is that correct?
yeah.
Well,
That's what I think.
all right.
I have 2 comments.
That's what I think.
Real quick before we get off of this. One of the things I'd like to see what our local hauler is doing is I'd like to see us move away from pickup trucks with hog wire and chicken wire backs holding trash. Just because I think whenever you get stuck behind one, you're embarrassed because you know that's how people perceive Wakulla County. When you see one of those trucks driving down Cropville Highway, which, so I'd like to see us move towards actual trash compactors or other trucks that enclose trash completely. Something to be thinking about, to be talked about, may not go over with the rest of the board. It's one of the advantages of moving towards a central localized trash haulers. We can say this is the type of truck you have to use. The other thing I also wanted, just while we're talking about trash, I did get an answer from Cleve on a question I asked. I wanted to throw out there unrelated to this conversation. There was a question asked at the last workshop that I led on trash, talking about what about C&D and recycling and things like that. Our current transfer station is too small for the current amount of trash going through it. But if we were to move towards a single trash hauler, which probably won't happen, but I'm going to keep talking about it until we decide that. Our current transfer station would still work for C&D, recycling, occasional trash if someone felt the need to go and take something there. It would still exist. We don't have to close it. It's just not big enough for the amount of trash coming to it. But if someone else was picking up all other trash and taking it to Tallahassee, the current transfer station does exist for some of the other side issues that people are concerned about. So that's just something else to think about. But I welcome bringing this back at a future time.
I wanted to ask Cleve. Cleve, was this similar to the pre-treatment situation we had many years ago, where we had nowhere to control pre-treatment? People were doing whatever they wanted to. Basically, what you're trying to do is get something that you could. Right now, you got nothing you can take away. If somebody doesn't pay you or doesn't do something right, what I want to keep my nose out of is their operational business. I'm sure you understand that, but their interactions with the county. You have nothing to take away right now, and he's right. It's a minimal deposit. I don't know how many times people ran tens of thousands of dollars, and they got a $500 deposit now. Now that some people have to pay cash at the scale house, cash, not even check. Got to pay cash, right?
Yeah.
And because checks bounce, and I understand what he's getting at. This looks perfect for a single hauler setup, or Apalachicola or something like that. But I understand now. We're just trying to preliminarily discuss it.
Right. But I want you
I understand what he's trying to
I'd
do.
like to see y'all come back, you and Nanette,
Next year.
and come back here soon, give you some time to work it, and come back with some product that works for the Wakulla County.
We need to do it soon because let's assume we go with the assessment. Your ways to put some controls on the county's haulers should probably go in effect the same time that the assessment did.
And this will really benefit the current haulers we have, because you're right, once that assessment gets in, you can go take your pickup truck, because you're not paying a tipping fee now. You could go get an old rickety trailer and just start picking up trash on the side of the road. So it's really going to benefit the professional people that do it. Now, I don't want to charge them, this thing had a percentage of revenues and this, that, and the other, but if there's some way of establishing competency, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Not to say we want to charge them, and I was worried about the first half of this workshop a lot more than the second half of this workshop, and I apologize tonight. But when we're thinking about these things, we're trying to figure out what to do. There may not, well, there are ways that we can use the sales tax or something. There are ways we could do something to make it where it makes sense, but I think they're exempt from sales tax because they're providing a service currently. I don't know.
Well, if you revoke a license, that means they can't use the transfer station anymore. That's what he's...
I want to tell the haulers that I support local jobs. I want to do everything I can to keep your jobs, but I want to make sure you certainly understand that this county is not going to be your bank. Just make sure you understand that. If you owe us money, you're going to have to pay us. And if we go forward and take some of these fees off of you, right now I don't know the books. They're evidently not all that great. Some people, I believe, have left us owing us $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. They just go out of business. That doesn't mean they didn't collect that 30. That means they just didn't pay us. So the taxpayers of the county are having to foot that bill. But I will support you. But when we wash this thing out, I won't support you 1 inch if you owe us money. And that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
And one thing about with what you were just talking about is it'll benefit the current local haulers. If you have to come through us and regulate it, if you want to give some type of local preference to people, or for people in Wakulla County, if not, what you say, it's going to open up the floodgates for other people to come in here to start picking up trash. But I've got to be able to control that, or the county needs to be able to control that somehow.
Well, there's like a lot of other things, you can do things on your own, but you can build your own house. But once you start doing it commercially and start making money at it, that's when you got to get licensed. And I think that's what he's trying to get at. I think this was a real kick in my pants reading it, but I think he does need something. I think we all do.
I think, Commissioners, if I may, I think that's kind of the intent, is to get this in front of you. Steph?
It says for discussion purposes.
To make us mad, then we go from there.
Well, no, I think the county attorney gave you everything in the kitchen sink. Is there anything in the kitchen sink that you don't want? So we're not treading the same ground again when we bring it back. That's kind of would be helpful to the staff.
We're going to go back and work it and come back. So you haulers need to be involved with Cleve and his staff to try to give him input on what you'd like to see and not see. I don't mean you're going to get it that way, but tell him how you see it and what you'd like to see, and I'm sure they'll work with you. The next part is the bear-proof garbage cans. Walmart, like I've heard before, has got tie-down straps. I don't want to make anybody. I don't want any haulers to have to provide these expensive bear-proof garbage cans. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interrupt, I do deference to Commissioner Archie. He asked me to read some things.
Okay.
Some of her concerns regarding that. So if I could, just so she can get some board feedback. Can you sit
up there and read them so we'll feel
because she asked me to just, reference her agenda item, but she wanted to know the board's willingness and preferences regarding requiring bear-proof metal dumpsters for all businesses, requiring all residents not to put out garbage can overnight, only after 6:30 a.m., requiring residents to use bear-proof garbage cans or to bear-proof their cans with other devices, the entire county. Selected areas, determine higher risk areas and so forth. Also requiring haulers to provide bear-proof cans at market price upon request. Bulk purchase of bear-proof cans to help waste haulers comply with the above. So those are some of the issues or points you wanted to get out there and see your...
I'm sure our haulers, if the homeowner, we talked about this today, if Aaron's going to go buy the can, you'd be more than happy to pick it up, I guess. So there we go. Yes. Or you can go to Walmart and buy the last for about $1.50
But not to require...
No.
Not to require the commercial bear-proof containers either.
No.
I'm not for that.
So did you want...
Yeah.
No bear-proof requirements in the ordinance at all? I mean, I guess that's kind of where she was going with.
The individual, most homeowners who got a trash can sitting out at the street, If a bear comes, knocks it over, they get down there and pick it up. They don't like to, and after they do it enough times, they'll bear-proof it themselves.
That's right.
I think you hear all four of us say,
We don't want no bear-proof.
She's going to watch the tape, so she'll hear you too.
okay, that's fine.
Are we on
And
TV?
the load covering, we have a load
We're always on TV.
covering,
The camera right there films us.
load cover, ordinance. But I was the one who pushed for a load cover ordinance way back when this got approved. And it has no teeth. There's no way to enforce it. I don't know how you do it.
You could give somebody a ticket, I guess, theoretically, for it.
You could use,
I don't,
Sheriff's
the
Department
haulers,
to write tickets?
from my experience at the landfill, it's really not, haulers aren't the problem with uncovered loads. A lot of it is contractors with their dumpsters, just general people. I mean, you'll see them come in the dump with a old rickety trailer and 4 or 5 trash cans on it. The haulers really aren't the problem as far as that's concerned. And,
I agree.
7.5 people haul their own trash to the landfill.
which I do every day, but I don't blow anything out of my truck.
You don't miss a chance.
I don't.
I strap my can down.
Subtle.
I don't know how we do that, other than ask the sheriff's department to try to help enforce that ordinance.
I think your loads was full, it's a pretty healthy fine.
It's a lot more than that $100
Yeah,
recommendation
they
you
stepped
asked,
it up
I
pretty
think.
good a couple of years ago and put a stop to a lot of it.
I tell you could stop it. You park the DOT man on, by the dump out there, that man loves handing out tickets. Very effective.
you know that from experience?
No, I never, he parked across from Ace Hardware, and every truck, every trailer that come by, you'd see him pulled in there.
Can you talk to the folks at the sheriff's department and ask them to
Talk to Chris White, we could get him to go out there, he could probably sit there.
I mean, I don't think it'd take a little intense effort at first, but I think once you, it's like, you write a ticket, people wake up and they say, well, we better do this.
If we're going to step up enforcement, like the Click It or Ticket campaign that advertises stepping up enforcement regularly, I would encourage that we do some sort of notice, or not notice, letter to the editor, or something in the paper that says the sheriff's department, the sheriff's department's going to be stepping up their enforcement of the covered load ordinance in Wakulla County to reduce trash, and talk about how great everybody is in the process. But hopefully that would help discourage that. That way, people all of a sudden who have been driving their trash to the landfill since we did this law 8 years ago and have never gotten a ticket, all of a sudden they get a ticket and they're like, I didn't even know this rule existed. I just don't want that. I don't want to get phone calls of people yelling at me without us.
They could do a DUI/covered load stop.
Be amazed if you catch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday.
Not only your load uncovered, but you're drunk.
All right, any more on this? Any citizen input?
Did Lynn have any other comments, or did Commissioner Arts have any other comments for the second part?
Just concerning covered loads already required, and what can we do to increase compliance? I think you guys are.
You're a good avatar, Tim.
Okay, thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
We'll conclude with that. Thank y'all.